Greetings to everybody out in Maryland's beautiful 8th Congressional District. It's Congressman Jamie Raskin coming to you on June the 17th, Friday, June 17th. We are observing Juneteenth, and I have with me an extraordinary local hero for my favorite time of the week when we get to celebrate the people that make life here so rich and meaningful and significant. And this is my friend Jim Stowe, who's the director of the Montgomery County, Maryland Office of Human Rights. He's the fourth director of the office in its 60-year existence. And he's been a crucial figure and leader in our community for promoting civil rights, diversity, inclusion, and the promotion of the human rights of everybody. And he's had an amazing career, which I identify with public service and community service itself. So first of all, Jim Stowe, congratulations on being our local hero this week.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Listen, it's just one of those things that I was overwhelmed with, number one, and appreciative, number two, and very humbled, number three.
Well, we're so delighted you're with us. I mean, your career has spanned the national level, the state level, the local level, the community level. But I mean, say a word, if you would, about how and why you've devoted your career to service of the community.
Congressman, every year we do a civil rights tour down south, and we are able then to touch and connect with some of the key historical points in the civil rights movement. And I'm always just overwhelmed and my word again, humbled by all the contributions of persons who really did the heavy lifting to allow me to be who I am today. And there are persons whose names we know, they're very familiar to us, but I really was struck by those whose names we do not know. Mm-hmm. Those who served, those who said, whatever it is that I need to do, that you need me to do, I'm there, count me in. And so it is in that spirit that I try to do the work that I do, because at the end of the day, King talked about this, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about this, the issue of service. Everybody can be great because everybody can serve. And so my passion is always behind the issue of service. What can I do? Big assignment, small assignment, does not matter. How can I help and move forward, whatever the agenda may be or whatever the cause may be, particularly if it's the right cause, obviously. That's why I do what I do. I'm standing on the shoulders of so many people that I'm grateful and always appreciative the fact that I have been able to do whatever it is I've done thus far because of their contributions and my building upon them.
Well, you know, I've been spending a lot of my time, as you know, Jim, on this whole nightmare of what happened on January 6th and what led up to it. And it's made me reflect on the fundamental importance of the civil rights movement, building fairness in housing and fairness in the economy and civil rights and inclusion. And the opposite of all of that is let's tear everything down, let's use violence, let's rip it away. And I wonder if you would reflect about where we are in the country, because on the one hand, I think you've probably seen enormous progress in your life. And at the same time, you're looking with me with horror upon some of the things that are taking place in the country.
I am indeed, but I must tell you this, the thing we have never done, Congressman, is this. We have never had the hard conversation about race. We have never been able to really get down to the root cause of it and do some primary things. One is to listen. We don't listen enough to our stories of each other. And so we never get any depth understanding about each other. It's always very surface. And then we have to acknowledge, you've got to acknowledge that this happened. You know, CRT, whatever you want to call it, out the window. We need to acknowledge this is factual, that these things occurred in our history. And then we got to figure out how do we move from here? How do we take then the lessons learned, reconcile, and then move forward into a new beginning for our country? We have never had that kind of formula, an equation to actually carry out, in my opinion. And so the progress we have made, oh my goodness gracious, absolutely, we made great progress, but it's still incremental to what we could be, in my opinion, had we had those important conversations and discussions and steps that I just mentioned. And until we do, Congressman, we're looking at this thing 300 years ahead of itself. We've been having this same conversation. Just go back, and you are a historian, and so you know this, but go back and read some of the dialogue that was back in some of the founders, some of the early civil rights activists and so forth and so on. Take out again the direct references to that time period. It's the same message. It's the same thought. It's the same thing. So I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, come on, gang, we can do better than this. When will we actually sit down and say to ourselves, guess what? We had a period in a time in my history that really was very, not only it was a time in history for very, very dark for many of us, but it also was a time in history that we were evolving. We were becoming a country at that point in time. I get all that. But we're at a point now where we should have had lessons learned that allow us to progress to a place that we never have even imagined that we could be as a country. So January 6th was allowed to happen because we have not had that conversation, because people still believe it is them against us. It's always been about, it always has, but it should have been, by the way, all about us collectively. And we've not reached that point yet.
You know, I remember President Clinton talking about that conversation. I remember President Obama talking about that conversation. I mean, maybe it's not a single conversation. Maybe it's something that we continually need to have dialogue about, because it is such an integral part of our history, the struggle over slavery and racism and Jim Crow and progress forward. You know, I've come to the conclusion that it's not like there's going to be one conversation or one law that solves everything. It is a continuing process of education for the country. And I want to thank you, and I want to salute you for your magnificent career devoted to human rights, devoted to civil rights. Thank you for being such a great director of our county office on that. And we salute you for your great vision, and thank you for being our local hero this week.
Congressman, if I may say one word, we're going to get there. Here in Montgomery County, we are going to get there. We're going to keep trying, but we're going to do it because we're going to do it intentionally. And that's the key word for our country as well. We've got to be intentional about this conversation and about the progress that we think we can make in this nation. We are a nation that I believe firmly that when we become undivided, we then become that quest, rather, toward that perfect union.
Thank you for everything you do.